Good morning. I'm joined this morning by Linda Hart Green of Shady Ladies Studios. And we're so excited that they finally opened. I've been previewing them being open for weeks on Facebook because I'm so excited about the concept they're bringing and the opportunities, not just for the people who are the owners, but for the whole art community here in Fernandina Beach. So good morning, Linda. How are you?
Good morning. Well, on a cold, rainy Saturday, I'm well, and I'm happy to be with you and everyone this morning. I appreciate the opportunity.
Welcome, welcome, and thank you for joining us. So I just want to start. You're very well known in the community, but there may be people who don't know you. So why don't you introduce yourself and tell people about your background, because it's varied and quite impressive.
Well, thank you, Leah. You're very kind. I'm a retired ordained American Baptist minister. I served the church in various, probably 5 or 6 different positions over 40 years. I was ordained in 1978, one of not that many women who served in pastoral and administrative capacities in my denomination for a long period of time. But I always, even as a child, had creative urges and always loved art and drawing, going to art museums with my family, loving. One of the earliest photographs of me is of holding a little brownie camera in my hand when I was 6 or 7, trying to capture pictures of my grandparents' house at the beach. So the art gene is there also. And in mid-career, I took an evaluation, and the evaluation showed that my skill levels lie half in service and half in creative and entrepreneurial endeavors. And my counselor told me that I was ignoring that half of myself at my own peril. So after several years of trying to digest that information, I finally came to the realization that I could serve my God and my world with my creativity just as much as I could with my service. And that began a different journey of me allowing myself to study art more completely and get much more involved in it. And then also then led to, as circumstances will, serendipitously sometimes, led to my ability to retire early, move to Fernandina Beach 8 years ago, and begin to explore what it would mean for me, not only to be an artist, but then to also participate in the art community here. So that's a little nutshell of where I've been.
Now, I know you have your roots in entrepreneurism too. Didn't your dad have a jewelry store that you ended up running?
Well, I don't know how much I ran it, but I did participate in it quite a bit, Leah. So my family had their own jewelry, watch repair business, and for 92 years. And my father was the 3rd generation who ran this business. And I participated in the business when I was old enough to just barely look over the showcases. And I learned to make change. I learned math by making change at his store. So I've always interacted with customers and the public, seen how that worked, and had a fondness for what small businesses can mean in a community. So yes, that's very much part of who I am.
Well, we're certainly glad that you came here, and I'm even more excited about having a look at some of your art and hearing about your art.
Okay, shall we look at some?
Yes, please.
So one of the first kinds of art materials I was given, I think I was 9, was a set of pastels. Pastels, this was a very inexpensive set. I was only 9, but pastels are unique in that they are almost pure pigment held together by a minimum of binders. And the interesting thing about them is that they can move and be blended, and the colors are very vibrant. So let me show you a few things I have on the wall in my studio. Here is a painting. I hope you can see it. Do I need to turn the camera around, Leah?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Let me
Or
figure out how to
stand
do
in front of the painting. One of the two, up to you.
Okay. Let's see. I can't. Oops. I'm going to have to I'm sorry. Pardon me, folks. This was new. There we go.
There we
See it
go.
now. Okay. I pardon the glare because the lights are on here in the studio. This painting is of the Wakulla River, and it is, to me, represents what Florida used to look like before its development. And that's a theme I've returned to several times. So
that's beautiful.
Thank you. It's a river down, it's in a state park down near Apalachicola. And here's another painting, also in pastel. This is called Spring on Fort George Island. And Fort George Island is down by the Kingsley Plantation. And so I tried to convey that things were just turning around. The grasses are yellow instead of green. And nature is just coming alive and awake. And then this painting is, I love old trucks, and the rustier the better. This is the painting of an old truck that sits at Rowland's Upholstery right here on the island. And if you notice, it has a little old license plate that's blue because it was from New York State. This painting's called Blue Plate Special. And the poor thing is languishing for restoration, but it's still there in Rowland's yard by the upholstery shop. The painting below it is called Egan's Creek Bend, and it is what's called expressionistic landscape. I didn't mean it to be exact. I painted the Egan's Creek Greenway how I felt about it with that particular day. And that scene is right behind the Atlantic Rec Center. So there are a couple there. And now we can walk. This is the area where I work. Right now, you can't see it, but one of the things I'm looking forward to doing, I love to learn about the Gullah Geechee communities. And I'm doing a portrait of Queen Quet, but it's not ready for prime time, so I can't show you. But this is the area where I work, and all my supplies are here, right here with me. This is my partner's work area, and we have what we call the partner gallery. I don't want anybody to get nauseous walking through here. This little painting is also from the Egan's Creek area, and it's just called Marsh at Dusk. So I portrayed the pinker, redder tones of the marsh. And let's see, let's do one or two more here. This is of a koi pond in Arapahoe Gardens in Gainesville. That was very challenging. I had never done koi before. This painting is of the gardens behind the Cummer Museum in Jacksonville. And this painting is, I got to go on a trip to Cumberland Island. And this is called Spring on Cumberland Island. And we were right outside the Grayfield Inn. It was getting towards dusk, so it has a lot of purples. In my art classes, I've been jokingly called the purpleator because there's probably purple in most of my paintings. And to that effect, the last one I'll show you, this was the challenging piece. It's all monochromatic. So in other words, it's all done in purples. Even the whites aren't white, they're light purple. And this is down by Tiger Point Marina, and a giant storm was coming in. In fact, after I took several photos, we just ran for our lives because the rain was coming sideways.
Wow.
So that shows the stormy clouds that can come up so quickly down here. So that's just a little sample of some of the things I do.
Thank you for sharing those with us. The last studio that you had, which was really the first one I got to spend any time in at all, you didn't have as much room for hanging much of your art. And so this is such a treat to finally be able to have some of it displayed.
Well, you can't imagine what a treat it is for me too, to be able to. Also, the light in here is very nice. I'm coming to you from, it's called Pelican Palm Center. It's between Hickory and Indigo on 8th Street. And most people know of the Red Bones Dog Bakery, which anchors the other end of this space. And so between Hickory and Indigo on 8th Street is where we are located now. Yeah. And we have nice parking.
Thank you so much. Share the concept, the whole concept that the Shady Ladies have of this space and how it'll be used.
How it's currently being used is my Mary, Libby, and I are partners. The original Shady Ladies came into being almost exactly 5 years ago. And this is actually our third location on 8th Street, just due to various circumstances. So last fall, after the death of one of our one remaining partner and suffering under the constraints of our former space, Mary and I decided it was time to broaden and rebrand our concept. So for this time, we have invited others in to participate with us. So our Shady Ladies has always been about celebrating the art in the local community. In our first space, how we did that was by having monthly shows on a theme, and absolutely anyone could enter if they did some kind of drawing on a theme. And in fact, there was one family who had 5 children who participated in several of our shows because they were being taught at home and their grandmother taught them art, and they would make some paintings and bring them in. So, but we had much more space even than we had here for such a show. But here we're very committed to celebrating and featuring the arts and the way the arts enrich our community here. We're very committed to the local community. Sometimes you'll go to a gallery somewhere and the art they show is not done by the people who live there. Mm-hmm. And many people come to Fernandina Beach and Amelia Island because there's just something special and magical about this place. And also it stimulates creativity, whether it's writing, drama, music. There's so many talented people here. It just blows my mind all the time. So we wanted to celebrate the visual arts here. So we have, in addition to ourselves, 12 participating artists here who are showing various works. They share them here with the public, and we help promote their art and give people a chance to see it. And in turn, they help us run the studio. So that's our concept here.
I've already seen some of the events that you've been putting on. So you're also letting different artists offer classes?
Yes, and that is going to be actually our very first one kicks off next week, called Artful Improv with Julia Newhouse, a very, very talented local artist who's going to be helping us focus not on product, but process, to stimulate creativity through use of different media and layering and texturing the media to find a different expression for visual art. And we're also in the future going to be offering classes in batik, in felting, in watercolor. I'll offer pastel and alcohol inks. Here right now, Julie Delphs is a local resin artist. And right now she's preparing for a class that will be starting within the hour. And that helps people make a painting and find satisfaction in that painting really pretty quickly. And you don't have to, so many people say, I can't draw. This just allows you to be free and play in the paint and make something pretty. So, yeah.
I think she made my desk, didn't she?
Yes, she made your desk. Yes, she did. Yes.
It's absolutely fabulous.
I can't wait talking about her and was smiling.
Have COVID behind us so that I can have people in. I know that they will love this desk.
Yeah, it's pretty special. I remember you picking it out. It's really great.
So, Linda, most of the people that will see this from my group will be people who have small businesses, and some are just starting out, where some have been in business for a very long time. You've been in business for a while and know the ups and downs and can probably give people some really good advice. What advice do you have for business owners or people thinking about starting a business?
You know, when I knew you were going to be asking me this, I have given it some thought, and I wish I had like super practical, do this, do that kind of advice. But I guess my recommendation is more broadly focused. As I said, this is our third location just on 8th Street in the last 5 years. We had one business model that we thought in one location that we thought was going to be it. But guess what, business owners? Things happen outside your control. There's and there's no need to feel badly about that. But I would say you have to be flexible. You have to be flexible and be ready to adapt to the local environment, to economic changes and circumstances. And yes, there's always a time of sadness when maybe the plan you thought was the best plan ever doesn't come to fruition. But sometimes what happens is the flow of the energy around you moves you in a different direction you might not have thought of previously. And if you go with it, if you trust it, and yes, risk, different things can happen. And believe it or not, if we hadn't done that, this place where I'm sitting right now would not exist. I mean, and in all honesty, it took losing our lease on our first place and then the death of one of our business partners in order for us to be spurred to make a big change. So there's lots of sadness and disappointment along the way. I won't minimize that. But there's also wonderful things can happen if you're open to allowing them to happen. I hope that makes sense to everyone.
Oh, that did. That was what wonderful advice that is. Because as a business owner, I know sometimes when something happens outside of your control, you have a tendency to just beat yourself up about it.
Yes.
I should have anticipated this. Why didn't I plan for this ahead of time? Why didn't I anticipate that this could happen? And sometimes stuff just happens.
Well, even to take this way far back, my paternal grandfather, who was the second jeweler in our family, was not at all flexible. And he was a Victorian man. I mean, he was very, very elderly and still saw himself as, even though my father was taking over the business, he did not allow my father to make more progressive business decisions. And the city in which the jewelry store was located started to change. And he couldn't see it and couldn't adapt. And so by the time my grandfather passed away and my father was able to move the business to a different town that was much more small business friendly, it really set the business back. So there's an example of, how inflexibility penalized the situation in that regard. And then when malls became, and I am going back into the 60s and early 70s, when the small businesses in small towns started hurting because of the malls being developed, and people saw, oh, look at this big jewelry store. They have so much more than that little jewelry store downtown. My father turned his business more to service. And so he could do special orders and fix things and service things. And also, my father was very inclusive in his vision for his business. His business was right on the border between the African-American side of the town and the more wealthy side of town. And he was so open. He built bridges to the African American community, attended church there, and was embraced by that community for being fair, often gave people a loaner watch if they didn't need a watch, and just loaned it to them with no collateral, and or let people pay on time for a gift that they wanted to give a daughter for graduation. When they couldn't, they would come in on payday and give him $5 a week or something like that. None of the other stores would let people do that. And
Wow.
so when my father passed away, I would say there were more than 500 people from the African American community that came to pay respects to him because of the way he had treated them doing business. So I'll tell you what, folks, service matters. Service
It does.
matters. And so if you treat each customer with respect, they will remember that.
That's really good advice, Linda. Thank you so much. I know your shop is about to open, so we won't keep you as people are starting to already come in. Somebody's got to mind the store.
Yeah, well, that's fine. Actually, Julie's taking care of it.
Okay.
She has a class, so I'm fine. Yeah, thank you. But yes, even on a rainy Saturday, we have activity going because guess what? You can do art inside. So that's good.
Yes, you can. Yes, you can. Thank you for so much for visiting with us today in Small Business Saturday. I really appreciate it, Linda. I'll see
I
you
really
soon.
enjoyed it. See you soon. Bye.
Bye.